Are there thrillers that I have read this year that will go in my Hallmark Thriller of Fame? Yes. Are there thrillers that I've read this year that are written by some of my favorite thriller authors? Yes. Are there thrillers that after I've read them, I still think about them? Yes. Here, I have decided to make my top 10 thrillers of 2021. Typically in the past, I've done my favorite top 10 books, but honestly, all of my top 10 books this year were thrillers. Hello, beautiful friends and book lovers, and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Heather, and here at Heather's Book Review, I like to read and review thrillers and mysteries of all kinds. And today I am filming my all-time favorite video that I love to film all year. In my opinion, I read all year to make this video, if that makes sense. Like, I read and then I categorize the books as I go, and then I always think, like, does this book deserve to be on my top 10? All of the books that I will be talking about today will be linked in the description box for you. Also in the description box will be links to all of the books that I'm going to talk about because they have all been reviewed by me. I firmly believe that if you chose to read any of these books that I'm going to mention, you will not be disappointed. Like, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. All of these books that I'm going to mention, I personally think are amazing for many different reasons. And I really hope that you would enjoy them because I'm not trying to steer you the wrong way. Okay, so what I'm so excited to say is, so thriller is obviously my favorite genre, but psychological thriller is my favorite subgenre. And out of these 10 books, 3 of my favorites this year were in the psychological thriller category, which makes me just super freaking excited. So I will start with number 10 and then work my way up to number 1, which number 1 is my favorite thriller that I read the entire year. But so I am going to start with a book that is called The Maid, which is written by Nita Prose. This is actually not available for purchase yet, but it will be soon. Its publication date is January 4th, so right around the corner. This is a book that I personally requested off of NetGalley in the hopes that they would grant me an arc to read. And it is so good. My one caveat is it's more of a mystery novel, suspense thriller. More of kind of like, not a whodunit, but just more in like the mystery category. So just know that going into it. But I'm including it in this video because it deserves to be in my top 10 of the year. It's so freaking good. Actually film my review for this book yet. I might actually do it today since I curled my hair. No, really, I will probably film my review for it today because I do want to post my review close to the publication date. But one of the reasons I love this book was because we have one of the most genuine main characters that I personally read all freaking year. I will say, while thriller is my favorite category, my favorite genre, I will say most of the time we're stuck with like protagonists that we don't really love, you know, like thriller books aren't ones where, you know, it's not the genre where like you meet your main character and like fall in love with them, right? Because that's just not really how thrillers work. In this mystery suspense thriller though, we have an amazing character. So I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis of The Maid for you. Molly Gray is not like everyone else. She struggles with social skills and misreads the intentions of others. Her gran used to interpret the world for her, codifying it into simple rules that Molly could live by. Since Gran died a few months ago, 25-year-old Molly has been navigating life's complexities all by herself. No matter, she throws herself with gusto into her work as a hotel maid. Her unique character, along with her obsessive love of cleaning and proper etiquette, make her an ideal fit for the job. She delights in donning her crisp uniform each morning, stocking her cart with miniature soaps and bottles, and returning guest rooms at the Regency Grand Hotel to a state of perfection. But Molly's orderly life is upended the day she enters the suite of the infamous and wealthy Charles Black, only to find it in a state of disarray and Mr. Black himself dead in his bed. Before she knows what's happening, Molly's unusual demeanor has the police targeting her as their lead suspect. She quickly finds herself caught in a web of deception, one she has no idea how to untangle. Fortunately for Molly, friends she never knew she had unite with her in a search for clues to what really happened to Mr. Black. But will they be able to find the real killer before it's too late? Guys, I read this book when I was still pregnant with my son. He's now 6 months old. So I read this probably around I think it was right before I was about to give birth. And I don't know if it was the pregnancy hormones or what, but our main character is so uniquely lovable. And if you were really paying attention to the synopsis that I just read, you may have gotten a little clues in there. It is so good. It's such a heartwarming read, but it still has that mystery thriller suspense feel, and I highly recommend it. Like I said before, all of the books I'm going to be talking about are linked below for you, so you do have the option to pre-order this one. Coming in at number 9 for my 10 best thrillers I've read this year. This is a crime domestic thriller, and it is Not a Happy Family by Sharila Penna. And remember to, in the description box below, I will leave the full reviews of these books for you because I think I can only insert a maximum of 6 cards. So I won't be able to actually link them all there for you. So I'll link them in the description. But this is what I categorize as a crime thriller. This is a perfect whodunit, okay? It's a perfect whodunit. I actually couldn't guess the killer, which I love. I love, love, love. That just makes a great story for me because that's what's thrilling about thrillers, in my opinion. You read a book and you're trying to put all the clues together. You're trying to be listen, I can figure this out. I know what I'm doing. And then sometimes it's whoa, that went in a direction I really completely was not, I couldn't figure it out. Here is the synopsis of Not a Happy Family. In this family, everyone is keeping secrets, even the dead. Brecon Hill in upstate New York is an expensive place to live. You have to be rich to have a house there, and Fred and Sheila Merton certainly are rich. But even all their money can't protect them when a killer comes to call. The Mertons are brutally murdered the night after an Easter dinner with their 3 adult kids, who of course are devastated. Or are they? They each stand to inherit millions. They were never a happy family, thanks to their vindictive father and neglectful mother. But perhaps one of the siblings is more disturbed than anyone knew. Did someone snap after that dreadful evening? Or did another person appear later that night with the worst of intentions? That must be what happened. After all, if one of your family were capable of something as gruesome as this, you'd know, wouldn't you? Coming in at number 8 in my top 10 thrillers of 2021 is A Nearly Normal Family. This is a domestic thriller, and what a pleasant surprise this was for me. I had this on my Amazon wish list, and one of my friends on Bookstagram sent it to me, and she was really sweet. She was like, hey, I've wanted to read this too. Maybe we could buddy read it together. So we did. We buddy read it together this summer. And this is a domestic thriller that is 3 point of views. You start off with the father's point of view, the mother's point of view, and then the daughter's point of view. So this is actually, I don't know if you can still get this on Book of the Month as a $10 add-on. If you're unfamiliar with Book of the Month, it is a book buying subscription for $14.99 a month. You get to choose any of their 5 marketed hardcovers for that month. But then for $10, you can also choose an add-on too. So I have my referral link in the description box below. And if you go through me, I get a free book, and you also get your first month for $5. But anyways, what I love, my favorite feature about Book of the Month is you can choose add-ons for $10. You can get 3 hardcover books for a little over $30. So, I mean, it's the cheapest way to get hardcovers in terms of book buying subscriptions. But anyways, I don't know if you can get it through them anymore because it is this was their June 2019. If you have this subscription, you could probably look on there. But let me go ahead and read the synopsis for you. It says, a father's faith, a daughter's loyalty, a mother's ethics, the shocking murder accusation that tests a nearly normal family. Let's see. 18-year-old Stella Sandal stands accused of the brutal murder of a man almost 15 years her senior. She's an ordinary teenager from an upstanding local family. What reason could she have to know a shady businessman, let alone kill him? Stella's father, a pastor, and mother, a criminal defense attorney, find their moral compasses tested as they defend their daughter while struggling to understand why she's a suspect. A nearly normal family asks the questions, how well do you know your own children? And how far would you go to protect them? Very good. Like I said, this was a pleasant surprise. This typically isn't up my alley, but I heard really, really good things about it. And I'm super glad that I read it. Number 7 on my top 10 thrillers is one that I personally requested off of NetGalley. And if you're not new here, you've heard me talk about this book basically since October, and that is The Stalker by Sarah Alderson. The concept of this just encapsulated me. I do categorize this as a psychological thriller. So this is one of the 3 psychological thrillers that I said would be included. It is so freaking good. It is the epitome of a perfect setting for a thriller, a remote island where a couple thinks they have it all to themselves. But then crazy stuff starts happening. So I have the description pulled up here for you. It says, newlyweds Liam and Laura are spending their honeymoon in paradise, just the 2 of them on a remote island off the coast of Scotland. But they soon discover that all is not as it seems, and the island has a tragic past. And they can't shake the feeling of being watched. When one morning they wake to find a message scratched into the window, their worst fears are confirmed. They aren't alone on the island. This is roughly $13 for the paperback version, and I think maybe under $5 for Kindle. I personally think this is a very decently priced thriller. So if you're looking for something on the cheaper side that really hones in on that psychological aspect of a thriller, check this one out. It's so good. Number 6 on my list, a friend is currently borrowing the book, but it is an ARC that I received from a publisher, St. Martin's Press, and that is The Perfect Daughter. Just The New Husband by DJ Palmer last summer, 2 summers ago. And I really liked it. But The Perfect Daughter I liked even more. This is another psychological thriller. So now I've talked about 2 of the 3. This is really good. Let me go ahead and read you the description. Grace never dreamt she'd visit her teenage daughter Penny in the locked ward of a decaying state psychiatric hospital, charged with the murder of a stranger. There was not much question of her daughter's guilt. Police had her fingerprints on the murder weapon and the victim's blood on her body and clothes. But they didn't have a motive. Grace blames herself because that's what mothers do. They look at their choices and wonder what if, but hindsight offers little more than the chance for regret. None of this was conceivable the day Penny came into her life. Then it seemed like a miracle. Penny was found abandoned with a mysterious past, and it felt like fate brought Penny to her and her husband Arthur. But as she grew, Penny's actions grew more disturbing and different personalities emerged. Arthur and Grace took Penny to different psychiatrists, many of whom believed she was putting on a show to help manage her trauma. But Grace didn't buy it. The personas were too real and too consistent. It had to be a severe multiple personality disorder. One determined psychiatrist, Dr. Mitch McHugh, helped discover someone new inside Penny, a young girl named Abigail. Is this the nameless girl who was abandoned in the park years ago? Mitch thinks Abigail is the key to Penny's past and to the murder. But as Grace and Mitch dig deeper, they uncover dark and shocking secrets that put all their lives in grave danger. Oh my God, that was a long synopsis of the book. I felt like I was reading for 5 minutes. Anyways, it's really good. It's right up there with the psychological thriller aspect. And I really liked it. As you can see, I have a friend borrowing it right now because I talked so highly of it. Next book, I just pulled it up on Goodreads so I could read the synopsis because I did listen to this on Audible. It has a 4.10 rating out of a collective 60,380 ratings. And if you're familiar with Goodreads, any book that has over a 4-star on there is really great. This is Local Woman Missing, written by Mary Kubica. Mary is one of my absolute favorite thriller authors. She's great, so anytime she comes out with a new book, I always jump on it. What I liked about this book was it has so many great twists. One of them is like absolutely jaw-dropping. And I listened to this months ago when it first came out. And I vividly remember like when the big jaw-dropping twist happened, I was folding laundry and I was listening to it and my jaw dropped. And then I was like, did I just hear that correctly? And then I had to like rewind it and listen to it again. It's so good. It's so good. I will say there are some parts that are a little disturbing and challenging to read, especially in the beginning. And I know some people like didn't finish the book because it was so disturbing, but just power through. Just power through because you will not be disappointed. Here is the synopsis. People don't just disappear without a trace. Shelby Tebow is the first to go missing. Not long after, Meredith and her 6-year-old daughter Delilah vanish just blocks away from where Shelby was last seen, striking fear into their once peaceful community. Are these incidents connected? After an exclusive search that yields more questions than answers, the case eventually goes cold. 11 years later, Delilah shockingly returns. Everyone wants to know what happened to her, but no one is prepared for what they'll find. In this smart and chilling thriller, master of suspense and New York Times bestselling author Mary Kubica takes domestic secrets to a whole new level. That indeed she does. It's really, really good. Number 4 feels like I read this forever ago. It is a psychological thriller. And oh my gosh, wait a second. I was surprised at the lower ratings of this book on YouTube. One, because it's written, on Goodreads. One, because it's written by arguably the best thriller writer that there is, and that's Alice Feeney. Sorry, this cover like takes very easily to like anything, so it looks a little dirty. Yes. Anyway, this is written by Alice Feeney. It's not her most highly rated book, and I firmly believe it's because of the twist. The twist, some will say, is just like, hold on a second. Let me collect my thoughts. That happens when I just get like so excited and like I have so many thoughts in my head and then I just like start stuttering everywhere and rambling. This book unnerved a lot of people. It does have disturbing things in it. Go into it knowing that it is an Alice Feeney novel and that you can expect some disturbing things and you will not be disappointed. I cannot believe how low rated this is for a Feeney book because it's freaking amazing. I have started to see more people on Bookstagram pick this one up, and I'm like such an advocate for this book because this is literally encompasses what a psychological thriller is about. It's so good. The synopsis is, meet Amy Sinclair, the actress everyone thinks they know but can't remember how. Except one person. Someone knows Amy very well. They know who she is and they know what she did. When Amy comes home and discovers her husband is missing, she doesn't seem to know what to do or how to act. The police think she's hiding something, and they're right, she is, but perhaps not what they thought. Amy has a secret she's never shared, and yet she suspects that someone knows. As she struggles to keep her career and sanity intact, her past comes back to haunt her in ways more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. It's so good. It's so good. And like, I just wish people would hear me say that, yes, there may be disturbing things in it, but if you go into it knowing that and like just putting on those bootstraps or whatever the phrase is, like, you won't be disappointed. It's so good. It also feels like I read this forever ago because I'm pretty sure the review I have on this book was in January. So when I was looking through Goodreads to just like see all the books that I read, I was like, wait, holy smokes, I read this in 2021? I'm surprised this isn't an Alice Feeney novel. This book feels like it was written by Alice Feeney. So, I mean, that's a huge compliment in my opinion. The book is Goodnight, Beautiful. It's written by Amy Malloy. Congratulations, Amy. I mean, this book is seriously amazing. The reason this is making my top 10 is because this book is like just deliciously deceitful. I recommend listening to this on audio. I listened to this and I was also in a book club for this book. And I feel like the people who listened to this book enjoyed it more than those who read it. I just filmed a whole review on this too. This video is probably gonna come out first because I wanna get this out because the year's almost ending and I'm gonna be busy. It's so freaking good. Let me just read you the synopsis. So this is about newlyweds Sam Statler and Annie Potter are head over heels and excited to say goodbye to New York and start a life together in Sam's sleepy hometown in upstate New York. Or, it turns out, a life where Annie spends most of her time alone, while Sam, her therapist husband, works long hours in his downstairs office, tending to the egos of his mostly female clientele. Little does Sam know, through a vent in his ceiling, every word of his sessions can be heard from the room upstairs. The pharmacist's wife contemplating a divorce. The well-known painter whose boyfriend doesn't satisfy her in bed. Who could resist listening? Everything is fine until the French girl in the green Mini Cooper shows up and Sam decides to go to work and not come home, throwing a wrench into Sam and Annie's happily ever after. It's not like you wouldn't enjoy this book actually reading it. I just feel like the audio made it the way that it was narrated was done very well, and it made it super special for like those jaw-dropping twists. So I recommend listening to this one. You here, you probably saw this coming. Number 2, a serial killer thriller, a over 500-page book. But it doesn't feel that way because you speed through it. The Chestnut Man, written by Soren Sveistrup. Guys, it's a truly gripping thriller. There is the show on Netflix too, which is also like an added bonus if you're definitely someone who appreciates reading the novel first and then watching the show. Oh gosh, it's so good. It's not for the faint of heart, especially the show. This is a very gruesome book, hence it being a serial killer thriller. Here we go. If you find one, he's already found you. A psychopath is terrorizing Copenhagen. His calling card is a Chestnut Man, a handmade doll made of matchsticks and 2 chestnuts, which he leaves at each bloody crime scene. Examining the doll's forensics makes a shocking discovery: a fingerprint belonging to a young girl, a government minister's daughter who had been kidnapped and murdered a year ago. A tragic coincidence or something more twisted? To save innocent lives, a pair of detectives must put aside their differences to piece together the Chestnut Man's gruesome clues, because it's clear that the madman is on a mission that is far from over, and no one is safe. Guys, I always I'm not a fan of books that are over like 350 pages, because then I feel like it just like takes forever to get through that, unless it's like something by Sarah J. Maas. But I flew through this because it's like so intense and gripping and you're trying to put the pieces together. I didn't guess the killer. It's so good. And for the final thriller, the best book I read of 2021. If you follow me on Instagram, then you've probably already guessed it because I documented my entire process reading this book, and I read it in one day. The first time I've ever done that in my life, started a book and finished it in the same day, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I highly recommend reading his first novel, which is The Silent Patient, before reading this. This is so good. The Silent Patient was actually my top book of 2019, my favorite book. It's an outstanding thriller. I will link it below for you too, because I do recommend reading that before reading this. However, you don't need to, but there are things in this book that you would appreciate more if you have the background knowledge that is The Silent Patient. This book is freaking unreal. I had so much hype for it. I had so much anticipation to read this. I did choose this as my book of the month choice. So the minute that blue box was delivered, I was pregnant. I was like maybe a week before I gave birth. So like I had a bunch of time on my hands. I just remember getting this book and sitting in my son's rocker with my swollen feet elevated. And I read this book from like, I don't know, 10 a.m. until like 7 p.m. at night. It's that good. Like you just start to finish it. It's crazy. The ending is like wild. Oh my God. Oh my freaking gosh. Let me just read this to you. A spellbinding tale of psychological suspense weaving together Greek mythology, murder, and obsession. Edward Fosca is a murderer. Of this, Mariana is certain. But Fosca is untouchable, a handsome and charismatic Greek tragedy professor at Cambridge University. Fosca is adored by staff and students alike, particularly by the members of a secret society of female students known as the Maidens. Mariana Andros is a brilliant but troubled group therapist who becomes fixated on the Maidens when one member, a friend of Mariana's niece Zoe, is found murdered in Cambridge. Mariana, who was once herself a student at the university, quickly suspects that behind the idyllic beauty of the spires and turrets and beneath the ancient traditions lies something sinister. And she becomes convinced that, despite his alibi, Edward Fosca is guilty of the murder. But why would the professor target one of his students? And why does he keep returning to the rites of Persephone, the maiden, and her journey to the underworld? When another body is found, Mariana's obsession with proving Fosca's guilt spirals out of control, threatening to destroy her credibility as well as her closest relationships. But Mariana is determined to stop this killer, even if it costs her everything, including her own life. My goodness. The Maidens is fantastic. All of these books are so good. If you've made it to the end and you're still listening, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, this is my favorite video to film all freaking year. If you do end up getting any of these books, please leave in the comments below what you thought about them. Like I said, I firmly believe that if you choose to read any of these 10 books, you will not be disappointed. They're all so very great. So like I said, I will link all of the books down below for you, along with links to my reviews of them. Goodnight, Beautiful, and The Maid will be, that's funny, I have The Maid and The Maidens. The Maid, which was my first book I talked about, I will put those in after they've been published here on YouTube. But thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and as always, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!